Hi everyone, it's the end of March, which means another recap of everything I saw on stage in a month. This time we have 11 shows on the docket, beginning on the first day of March when I went to the Public Theater to see the fourth preview of Antigone, this play I read in high school. This play is by Anna Ziegler after the Sophocles drama Antigone and directed by Tyne Raffaelli. Anna's version of Antigone is set between ancient Greece and modern day. The title character is here played by Susanna Perkins, and instead of disobeying her father by burying her brother's dead body, she gets an abortion. Her father, Creon, played by Tony Shalhoub, is kind of a bumbling ruler who enacts this anti-abortion law. And as this plotline is happening, Celia Keenan-Bolger does interludes as the chorus, where she narrates her modern-day character's own life and how it relates to Antigone's. I first want to mention that I had the great pleasure of speaking to Susanna Perkins for the Washington Square News. We go into the joys of NYU dining hall food, what makes this adaptation so exciting, and how to continue making art in this political climate. Check it out on nyunews.com and linked in the description below. Funny story, when I finished my lovely chat with Susanna, I was leaving the Public, and right as I was walking out the door, none other than Celia Keenan-Bolger walks into the door next to me. I did not stop her because she was in the middle of a two-show day, and I think she was carrying her dinner, but honestly, that was just a stunning moment. Anyways, considering I saw a very early preview and they were still making drastic changes through the process, I don't want to go too hard into Antigone, but I will say that I really liked it, and I loved how ambitious it was. I think a lot of plays I've seen recently have been content with small, which can definitely work, but Antigone is big and twisty and full of interesting moments of theatrical magic. I swear I'm not glazing them just because I did an interview with them, but Susanna was incredible. Celia was phenomenal as always. Tony Shalhoub was fantastic as well. I have seen a lot of negative coverage of this show on the boards, and I'm here to tell you that I think it is unfounded, and you should definitely go see it. I next went all the way uptown during a literal torrential downpour to see Is God Is, performed by Columbia University School of the Arts. This was a master's thesis production directed by Brittany Vi King of Alicia Harris's play. Is God Is a wild play about revenge and generational trauma. It was also adapted into a movie that's releasing in May, and you should definitely see it. It follows two sisters, Racine and Anaya, who both have burn scars. They're on a journey to kill their father on the order of their mother, and I am not saying any more. I'm just gonna be frank, this production of Is God Is was genuinely one of the best things I've seen all year. First off, the play is absolutely hilarious. There's this moment in the play where two people just eat arugula salad, and I don't know if it's different in different stagings, but in this one they were genuinely just pouring arugula on two plates with nothing else. Like the most arugula I have ever seen on a plate ever, and it genuinely cracked me up so much. And there were so many moments like this. I think I seriously haven't laughed this much at the theater since like maybe when I saw Oh Mary again last May. It is so impressive how Alicia's play is able to flip between so many contrasting tones and plot moments and also playwriting styles. Like there's narration in this play and it totally works somehow. The play is also stunningly violent, but it also manages to hit you with the full force of the sisters' complex characters. Brittany's production was admittedly pretty scrappy, but it totally got the job done, and she got great performances out of her cast, especially the two sisters, Carter as Anaya and Arden Isabella Carithers as Racine. I am honestly so glad I saw this, and I'm now rooting for this play to go to Broadway or get some other production in New York City. It would honestly work on Broadway. I think it's big and wild enough for it. And I am also so excited for the movie now. This is how we get Cara Young her Oscar. I next went to the NYU Skirball Center to see Exit Above, a new contemporary dance work by Anna Teresa de Kiersmaker, who is a choreographer from Belgium. I'm gonna kind of speed through this because I am the furthest thing from educated on contemporary dance as anyone could be. This was pretty similar to other shows I've seen at Skirball in that it was very experimental and I didn't really understand it at all. I will say that there was a pretty lovely image of a giant plastic sheet propelled by a fan in the opening, which is, I suppose, representative of the Tempest from Shakespeare that this play is kind of following, but otherwise, I couldn't really tell you what story Anna was trying to tell. This production was part of the Dance Reflections by Van Cleef festival that happened in March, and I honestly kind of wish I saw more from this festival just to get a broader scope of what's going on in the contemporary dance world. The next Wednesday, I went on a class field trip to see the new revival of Death of a Salesman, the classic American play, of course, by Arthur Miller. This revival is directed by Joe Mantello and stars Nathan Lane as Willie Loman and Laurie Metcalf as his wife Linda. And this revival is also being produced by Scott Rudin as part of his big comeback to Broadway. Yay! Death of a Salesman is a classic play, so I'll only quickly summarize. Nathan Lane plays a salesman and he dies. Or, more accurately, he's pretty much already dead at the start of the play. This was an early preview, so I again won't get too into the weeds with it, but I felt this revival was very powerful and well done. Joe Mantello stages the entire play in the Lohman family garage, with these giant concrete pillars and a lot of dust and dirt everywhere. Just like in Sunset Boulevard, Jack Knowles' lighting design does a lot of heavy lifting for denoting scene changes and especially the play's flashbacks. The sound design is very echoey, with the voices and people popping up all around. Overall, in our class discussion, we thought Joe's direction kind of made the play into Willie's mind palace, a very psychological blend of past and present, fantasy and reality. I found it very effective. Nathan and Lori are predictably incredible. Their sons are played by Chris Abbott and Ben Allers, and while I didn't find them as incredible as their parents, they were solid enough and not too distracting for me. So yeah, I just found this to be a very effective revival with great style and a good night out, which is just kind of unfortunate, I guess, considering the whole Scott Rudin thing, so maybe just like enroll in an NYU class and get free tickets like I did. The following weekend, I had a very exciting opera-filled 2 days, and I swear this is not performative due to Mr. Timmy's comments. I actually really love opera, and honestly, you should too. And also, Timmy was kind of right, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, on Saturday, I saw Puccini's Madama Butterfly at the Metropolitan Opera. This opera is probably most known to theater people for being the basis of the musical Miss Saigon, and maybe less known, but also still known for being inspiration for the David Henry Hwang play M. Butterfly. I just have to say first off that this musical is so orientalist and racist. And yes, there was a non-Asian person playing the role of Butterfly who is canonically a Japanese geisha, but acknowledging all this, somehow this performance was pretty incredible. It was my first time in the opera house, which is just so beautiful and made me feel really rich, which was a great experience. The orchestra was great. The stage setup had this lacquered mirrored floor and a mirrored ceiling as well, which made the vibrant costumes really pop. Evelyn Perez sang the role of Butterfly on Saturday, and I thought she was really stunning. I would honestly recommend going to see this production, or really anything at the Met. I also went to Carnegie Hall for a concert production of the English composer Handel's take on Hercules. Low-key, I have not that much to say about this concert. I think Baroque music may just not be for me. Even though I love opera, I don't think I've reached the necessary maturity required for 3 hours of Handel. And yeah, sorry to all my Handel fans out there. I next went to the first performance of New York City Center's Encore's presentation of Lacusa's The Wild Party. This musical has a pretty interesting history, so I'll try and summarize quickly. It starts with Joseph Moncure March, who published the original Wild Party narrative poem in 1928. Flash forward to the 1990s, where Art Spiegelman's illustrated reissue of the poem introduces a new generation to its sex and general debauchery. This new generation includes one Michael John Lacusa and one Andrew Lippa, who both concurrently developed musical adaptations. It was in the public domain, so there were no copyright battles. In the 1990 to 2000 Broadway season, Lippa's version played off-Broadway and Lacusa's played on Broadway. Lippa's version is more conventional and ballad-filled and has subsequently been produced more often, but I've heard more love for the Lacusa version, and this is basically the first New York production of the Lacusa since 2000, so it's coming to City Center with a lot of hype. The Wild Party centers on Queenie, played by Jasmine Amy Rogers, who is a chorus girl, and her lover Burrs, played by Jordan Donica, who a vaudeville clown, who predictably host a party. They have an extensive guest list, which notably includes Queenie's best friend Kate and Kate's lover Mr. Black, played by Adrian Warren and Jelani Aladdin. As the party continues and everyone gets progressively drunk and high and heated up, things generally go down. I had a kind of mixed reaction to this Wild Party, which I want to preface might have been caused by a bit of exhaustion. I was at press screenings for this film festival that week, so I saw 3 movies Monday, 3 movies Tuesday, 2 movies Wednesday, and then saw Wild Party that same evening. And while this production of the Wild Party might not have truly thrilled me, what it really did convince me was of Lacusa's genius score. It's like 2 hours straight of music, basically operatic in a sense, that is so versatile, jazzy, and inventive and unique. But it's a huge shame that with this great score, this was probably the worst sounding Encore's production I've ever been to. I always got the cheap seats in the balcony, and I've never had an issue with muddy sound up there, but this production really suffered from it. Also, I think that the scope of this production, directed by Lillian Brown, was a little too big for Encore's short rehearsal schedule. No one is on book, which is impressive, but I felt there were a decent number of fumbled over lyrics or choreography that wasn't as tight as it could could have been. This kind of extended to the performances as well, none of which I felt were really truly developed, which is also just a hallmark of encores. Every performer kind of brings with them what they already know into their character. Sometimes this works, like with Adrienne Warren as Kate. She was in Shuffle Along, she knows how to do this kind of music, but unfortunately, I thought someone like Jasmine Amy Rogers was a bit miscast, as she brought in a bit too much of her Boop-era ingenue personality for me. Overall, I think I would have liked it more had I not been sitting in the balcony and had more familiarity and pre-existing love for the show. That Friday, I saw the last performance of Othello, danced by the American Ballet Theatre at the David Koch Theatre in Lincoln Center. This version of Othello, obviously based on the Shakespeare play of the same name, has choreography by Lara Lubovitch set to music by Elliot Goldenthal. This was like the first full-length narrative ballet I've ever seen. I saw a triple bill including Balanchine and Peck before. I was kind of surprised by how literal the dance was. I expected it to be more metaphorical and the quote-unquote essence of Othello, if not an exact play-by-play, but it was pretty easy to follow. I'm prefacing this by saying I'm definitely not a ballet critic either, but I wasn't a huge fan of how gestural and obvious a lot of the choreography was. Like, whenever a character was in turmoil, they would hold their head in their hands. That kind of gestural. Also, they made Iago weirdly comedic. I guess it is pretty hard to translate a character known for his verbal manipulation into a medium where no one talks, but I think they could have done a better job. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I was a huge fan. Also, the projected backdrops were really ugly, just wholly unnecessary and terrible to look at. The following day, I saw Public Charge at the Public Theater. This play is written by a former United States ambassador, Julissa Reynoso, with the playwright and lawyer Michael J. Chapiga, and it is largely about Reynoso's time in the State Department during the Obama presidency. I got press tickets to see this play, which was very exciting, thank you to the Public Theater, and wrote a review. So obviously you should go read that right now, and I'm not going to say any more about this play. The next Saturday, I went to see Giant on Broadway, starring John Lithgow as the children's book author Roald Dahl. This play is a transfer from London, now running at the Music Box Theatre, written by Mark Rosenblatt and directed by the GOAT, Nick Heitner. Giant tracks one afternoon in Dahl's country house, particularly a lunch with Dahl, his fiancée Felicity, his British publisher Tom, and an American sales representative, Jesse Stone. The subject of the meeting is a book review Dahl wrote in which he made anti-Israel and anti-Semitic comments. Tom, Jesse, and Felicity all want Dahl to apologize, primarily because the comments would hurt the sales of his upcoming book, The Witches. Giant works the best if you think of it as a character study of Dahl, who is basically a child in a 6'4" body. He gleefully taunts and picks on his guests, especially the American Jesse, and goes from sentimental one moment to cruel another with no rhyme or reason. Basically, he's the final boss of rage baiters everywhere. And this only succeeds with Lithgow's performance, which was phenomenal. He is turning in a veteran's performance, subtle but loud when he needs to be. He understands that a single quip or glance often does more damage than shouting an entire paragraph. Obviously, this was also guided and sharpened by Nick Heitner's direction. Most other characters in Giant don't get the same deep psychological character building as Dahl. I think Felicity suffers the most. Rachel Stirling does what she can, but it's pretty unclear, despite the explanations they give, why she even wants to stay with him and wants to get married to him. Elliot Levy as Tom and Aya Cash playing Jesse did better, especially when the play considers how their own Jewish identity factors into conversations with Dahl and with their own business interests. But these characters are still probably both around 75% fully fleshed out. Dahl is the only one at 100. Despite all of this, just with how good Lithgow's performance is, I think Giant is actually one of the better things to see right now on Broadway. The same day, I caught the evening performance of Seagull True Story at the Public Theater in Lou Esther Hall, which, by the way, means I've been to all 5 of the play theaters within the Public, which is kind of crazy that they even have 5. Anyway, Seagull True Story is a semi-autobiographical play about a director named Khan who stages Chekhov's play The Seagull in February 2022 at the Moscow Art Theater. And if you don't know, February 2022 was when Putin's quote-unquote special military operation in Ukraine began. The director Khan makes some anti-Putin statements, forcing him to flee to the United States, and then the second act turns into more of his struggle with commercialism and his burgeoning romance with an actor he meets named Nico. Seagull True Story is a lot. The play has a fourth wall breaking MC, musical, song/rap and dance numbers, moments of surrealism, all to bring together the story of making art under oppression. It's a whirlwind of energy, and with so many many things thrown against the wall, it's inevitable that some bits or moments don't land. Which, I mean, is expected. Seagull True Story began at La Mama, and it's a distinctly downtown type of show. But I think it could have been refined a bit more, especially in the weaker second half where a lot of the jokes come from making fun of like people who are too woke or too liberal. Overall, the best parts were either the very absurd or the very classical drama type scenes, but I was unfortunately cringing a bit when it veered into SNL high school theater show territory. Also, I gotta mention in this play that there was an image of a plastic sheep being propelled by fans. Whoa, remember like 10 minutes ago when I was talking about Exit Above and that plastic sheep being propelled by fans? That's crazy. What Seagull True Story really did was remind me of how good a play The Seagull is. The Seagull is actually my favorite play ever, and factually the best play to ever be written ever. They kept quoting two parts from Constantine and Nina's monologues in Act 4. Every time they would do this or any other part of the play, I was like, yes, Chekhov was really onto something here. He was kind of cooking. Anyways, I think Seagull True Story is still worth watching. It's a fun and politically relevant experience that could use some editing if there are any future productions planned. That's the end of March. Honestly, congratulations to me for finally uploading consistently. Hopefully we can keep this up, though I am doubtful considering how busy my April is shaping up to be. But subscribe to be notified whenever my next recap drops or some other video my mind cooks up. Leave a comment if you've seen any of these shows, especially if you greatly disagree with all of my opinions. See you guys next time. Bye.